Listen, let me tell you something about this Knicks team. They have the identity. They have the physicality.
We could wake up and the Knicks could be in the conference finals. That's a thing that can happen.
Hello everyone and welcome back. This is Season 2, Episode number 10 of Empire State Hoops. Welcome to our playoff preview. I have been waiting to do this for so long now, and I am absolutely so excited for this. And as per usual, I'm Adam Rothschild, and alongside me, that is Matt Vargo. And today's episode of Empire State Hoops has been powered by Sport Pros USA. For more information, visit sportprosusa.com or call 877-HOOPS-NJ to make your dream court a reality today. So, the NBA playoffs are finally here.
That's right.
The New York Knicks have wrapped up their season on Sunday against the Chicago Bulls. Jalen Brunson, 40-point masterpiece with the game on the line. If you lose the game, you're the 4 seed. If you win the game because Orlando beat Milwaukee, that can push the Knicks up to 2, and that is exactly what happened. The Knicks beat the Bulls in overtime. Jalen Brunson being his usual self, MVP candidate, top 5, of course. And to go with that, of course, the Knicks beat Chicago, and they got themselves home court advantage as the 2 seed in the first round of the playoffs.
That's right. Pretty wild to say that coming into it because obviously there was a lot of moving parts that could have happened in the East. Like some teams could have got out of the play-in into the normal playoffs. 76ers were that team. They needed some help from the Bucks actually to beat the Magic. Didn't happen, and we'll get to that in a bit. But for the Knicks, what a ride. Like if you were to tell anybody that the Knicks were going to be the 2 seed at the end of the year, you probably would have gotten laughed out of the building, but they were the only other Eastern team to get over 50 wins other than Boston. Although they really had to sweat it out to get that 50th win. The Bulls, nothing to play for, gave them a hell of a fight. I think Vooch went for 30 and 11. DeRozan was good. I think they had someone else go close for 30. Might have been Kobe White. But Brunson, I believe, 43, you said?
It was around 40, yeah. Yes.
43. DiVincenzo had 25. Anunoby he only had 11, but he played better defense. And I mean, it wasn't a smooth sailing win at times. In fact, the Bulls actually controlled that game for most of it, and they were able to eke it out. They got the 2 seed, and all eyes are glued to that Philly-Miami game. And as for leapfrogging Milwaukee, I mean, we'll probably talk about them later, but they look like a completely broken team without Giannis, and I think they're in real trouble.
Yeah, the Bucks have been up and down all season, and the talk of them going into the year along with the Celtics was that they would be the number 2, but no, they fell to 3 because they lost to Orlando and the Knicks beat Chicago, so that's what ended up happening in that case. But with this being the first 50-win season for the Knicks since 2013, and you got to think about the guys that were on that roster that year: Jason Kidd, Tyson Chandler,
Melo.
Raymond Felton, yes, Melo,
Steve Novak,
J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, Chris Copeland. You got to think about all those names that were on the roster back then and to how it is now through this rebuild they've had for so long and all the success that has led to it since Leon Rose was hired back in 2020.
Yep.
The big turnaround. This has probably been the best season since that 2013. Obviously, last year was a great year getting to the second round, but the Knicks know they were that basket away off the Brunson turnover from going to a Game 7 against the Heat with a chance to go to the conference finals last year, but they think they can take it a step further this year.
Well, obviously you have to think that because if you draw, we'll see what happens with the play-in game. I like the 76. I think if they draw the 76ers, they could be in trouble. Against the Heat, I like the Knicks over the Heat, regardless of what happened last year, because the Heat are just kind of who they are. Meanwhile, the Sixers, it was more clear. Embiid's there, they're great. Embiid's not there, they stink. But with Milwaukee being in trouble against Indiana, and now I think Indiana's going to upset Milwaukee with the news that's come out recently from the Bucks, why not think they can get to an Eastern Finals against the Celtics? Probably, Celtics would obviously be the favorite, but why not? Like, with Milwaukee being injured and in real trouble against the Pacers, the Sixers in their playoff history, and the Heat being the 8th seed, I mean, the path is clear as day for them to try to get to an Eastern Finals. Just gotta hope that everything comes together, avoid some major injuries, and Brunson continues to be Brunson.
Yeah, I'm not going to say they're going to beat the Celtics because they're just not as good as them. But, getting to the conference finals, I would still consider that a success, even if we don't make it to the NBA finals, which I can never see happening right now in this moment with the amount of loaded teams you got, even though the West is much more loaded, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But now looking at this playoff bracket, with this recording we're doing today, the Western Conference play-in games are happening today. Yep. The Eastern Conference games will be right after this episode will be aired on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And looking at the Western Conference games, there's really one thing I want to talk about here with LeBron and the Lakers.
Yeah.
I've heard people talking about this because think about this situation. They're in the 7-8 game.
Yep.
The winner of that game plays the Nuggets in round 1. Indeed. And nobody is going to beat Denver. I want to say the Lakers maybe will get 5 games in that series. I don't know if I want to give them a chance, but there's a thing that's been talked about because here's the thing. You have the OKC Thunder who got the 1 seed, with how close the 1-2-3 was between them, Denver, and Minnesota. Mm-hmm. So looking at this from another perspective, if the Lakers lose this game to New Orleans, they'd have to play Sacramento or Golden State. And I don't know what their odds would be, but the winner of that game would have to play an unexperienced OKC team that's the number 1 seed in the West.
That's right.
But with the way that they've been playing some really good basketball, I would say they have that regular season experience that they could bring with them, but I don't know how much it's going to mean. So what do you think if the Lakers lose and they have to go into a do or die play-in game for the 8th seed to play the Thunder?
Some people said throughout this hypothetical, not rest AD, because I know AD has a back injury, I think, coming into this game. They were saying maybe rest AD, lose the game to the Pelicans to avoid Denver and get OKC, because I believe LA went 0-3, 0-4 against Denver this year, and I think they went 1-3 against, or 3-1 actually against OKC. But I'm gonna be honest, like I think you try to win this game against the Pelicans, in my opinion. Why? Because if you lose the game to the Pelicans, yes, you get another chance, but in a single elimination game, because I think Golden State's beating Sacramento tonight. They're healthier, got more experience, and Steph is still great. And so I think Golden State's going to win it. I am not going into a do-or-die single elimination game against the greatest shooter alive, former dynasty in the making, great head coach. So it's just way too much of a gamble to go with. So I think you try to beat the Pelicans, try to get the 7 seed, and I mean, hey, I don't think LA can beat Denver. I really don't. But if you're ever going to do it, because the Lakers are an old team, why not get them early rather than, like we saw, they got them late in the Western Conference Finals, and by that point, they were out of gas and they got swept. Now, Denver was clearly the better team, but maybe it could have been a more interesting series if LeBron and AD were fresher, and I feel like they would be fresher in a first-round matchup against the Nuggets than they would be against like them in the Western Finals. But now I will also say this. LA has got to be pissed that Minnesota lost to Phoenix in the last game of the year, because Minnesota could have been the 2. They could have been the 2 had they won. They got walloped by Phoenix, and they're going to play them, and I think they're in trouble against Phoenix in round 1. So I think the Lakers, man, they're caught between a rock and a hard place, but I think they're going to win this game tonight, and they'll take on Denver.
I think definitely going into this situation that you have to think about this with Sacramento in their case as well, because they have so many injuries. Monk is out. Kevin Huerter is out. Yep. So that's another reason why you would think Golden State would win. And yes, I do have them winning this game tonight. So that's the other thing you have to put into perspective. You'd have LeBron have to go against Steph in a do or die. One goes home, one moves on to play the 1 seed. So that's the thing. I think if you're Lakers, you're probably going to try to win tonight, especially since New Orleans has been on and off this year as well with the consistency that they've had, because their bench hasn't been as strong at times, but their starters are always consistent with Zion and Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum, of course, and their center and Valanciunas. So that's going to be another thing to watch. But looking at some of these playoff series in the Western Conference, well, ones that are lined up already. So talking about a couple of these. So I want to focus here on Minnesota and Phoenix. A lot of people, I know we've talked about it. We talked about it the other day, how the Suns are favored over Minnesota.
Is that like the official Vegas odds? They're favored against Minnesota.
I don't want to confirm it, but I think this series could go 6 or 7 games. I absolutely think it can. it just depends on what happens, because you got to think about this. They formed the big three. You got Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. You got two guys averaging around 26 a game in Booker and Durant. And then you got to go against Minnesota, who has an all-star in Anthony Edwards, who is a supreme talent.
Yep.
You got Towns and Gobert in the middle. And it's besides that for Minnesota, it's pretty much spread across the board with role players. So I really don't know what to expect out of the T-Wolves in this series. I know they're going to come in with home court advantage, but I think Kevin Durant's going to want a piece of this. And I could see the Suns going in there and trying to go for a split in the first two games.
Well, obviously, if you're Phoenix, you'll take a split because you take home court away from Minnesota. I was liking the Suns yesterday when we were talking about this, but I've like flip-flopped like so often. It's like I want to believe in Minnesota because how many wins did they finish with? 54, 55 wins?
Something like that, something around
and
there.
That's no joke. Like you can't be a fraud and win 55 games, but I don't know. Watching that last game of the year, that last game against Phoenix, they fell right behind, down by 22, made it a little bit of the game, but then Phoenix stomped on them again in the fourth quarter. I think they won by around 20. And I don't know. I think if you were to tell me right now, I would say Suns in a full 7-game series, I'd go with Phoenix, but who knows? By Saturday, when I think this game is played, I might have my mind changed. I don't know. Like, that is going to be a good series.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a weird, interesting spot because the Suns had to win this game in order to avoid the play-in tournament because they were right on the cusp of that. So they did a good job doing that, and going up now against a team that doesn't really have a lot of winning playoff experience, but they've been in the playoffs. They've been in and out the past couple of years. And before we go to a break, we'll touch on this last Western Conference matchup that's already set, the Mavericks and the Clippers. I love this series so much. There's going to be a lot of drama within this. It's happened so many times over the past few years.
Round 3.
Basically round 3. We had it in 2020. We had it in 2021. The Clippers have won both of these series. Dallas plays them well in both. And I think this year the Mavericks can do it. I really think they can. Because when you look at the Mavericks from last year, I like their roster a lot better this year with the additions they made at the deadline. So they brought in a lot of good pieces, I think, with Gafford and Washington coming in. And I think they also, another player that really hasn't been shined in the light that much in the past few years, Dante Exum. I think they put him finally in a good situation because the last time I remember hearing his name was when he was back with the Utah Jazz. And I think this is a great spot for him. And Kyrie's been playing good. Luka's been playing good. Jason Kidd's doing an excellent job coaching. And I see them winning. I see them winning in 7 games. I know they don't have the home court advantage, but I'll give them a shot.
I'm going Mavericks in 6 in this one because Dallas, because these two teams are like on completely opposite momentum swings right now. Dallas was just kind of there going into the All-Star break, and then like you said, they made the moves for Gafford and PJ Washington, and Gafford was flirting with a Wilt record there for a while, most consecutive made field goals, but yeah, they have been like surging up, and meanwhile the Clippers, it was like, it started bad with Harden. I think it got to 0-5 at one point. Then they surged to the top of the West. Then they went to the All-Star break, and I don't know what happened. They've been playing like mediocre, like I think they are 1 game over 500 since the All-Star break. I know Russ has missed some time, Kawhi's missed some time, and who knows, Kawhi might be hobbled coming into this series. You throw in that Luka torched them in 2 playoff series previous. I know he didn't win either, but he didn't have the better team in those 2 years. So you give me Luka, you have Kyrie, who's a made man. He's a champion as his co-star. And I just really like this Dallas team. And I think if this Dallas team can draw OKC in round 2, I'm not saying they would win, but I would give them a very good shot to upset the 1 seed.
Yeah, I could see that happening too. I think with the way Dallas has been playing some good basketball this year, I think they have a very good shot at this, and I'll give them a chance. I think the thing is they're going to have to win at least 1 game in LA for this series. That's what's going to have to happen, and we'll see what happens with that. And right after the break, we'll get to the Eastern Conference, which I know for both of us, we are excited to see the Eastern Conference playoff picture because it is very interesting with all the drama unfolding. And we'll be right back after this short break here on our playoff preview of Season 2, episode number 10 of Empire State Hoops. We'll be right back. Hey there, basketball fans. Are you ready to take your love for the game to a whole new level? Well, listen up. We've got something that will make your hoop dreams come true. Introducing Sport Pros USA, the ultimate destination for all your backyard sport court needs. Whether you're a diehard Knicks fan,
or just looking for some slam dunk fun with your family, Sport Pros USA has got you covered. Picture this, it's a sunny afternoon in New York, and you step out onto your very own custom-built backyard basketball court. The court where legends are born and memories are made. A court where you can unleash your inner baller and shoot hoops like your favorite Knicks players. But it's not just about basketball, it's about family, friends, and fun. Whether you're hosting a game of horse with your buddies or teaching your kids how to dribble and shoot, Sport Pros USA brings the magic of the game right to your doorstep. Our courts are more than just a place to play. They're a place to connect, bond, and create unforgettable moments. And with Sport Pros USA, you can have it all, right in your own backyard. We're not just building courts, we're building dreams. Dreams of buzzer beaters, comebacks, and endless laughter. So why wait? Give us a call at 877-HOOPS-NJ or visit sportprosusa.com today to start designing your very own backyard basketball court. Remember, at Sport Pros USA, we believe that every home deserves a court, and every family deserves the joy of playing together. So don't just watch the game, be a part of it.
And we are back here once again, Season 2, Episode 10 of Empire State Hoops. I'm Adam Rothschild. Alongside me, that is Matt Bargo, here on our playoff preview as we just touched on the Western Conference. Now it's time to shift our ways over to the Eastern Conference.
Yep.
So we've had a lot of drama recently with the Milwaukee Bucks, which we're about to touch on in a second. But this series between Cleveland and Orlando, I remember this early in our podcast. Yep. You talked about the Magic, saying they would be in the playoffs, and you were right. Look where they are as the 5 seed.
I'll take a bow. I'll take a bow. I know it was kind of a weird pick. I know people thought that they would be better than last year, but I said they're not even going to be a play-in team. They'll be a play-off team. And look what they are. They're the 5 seed. They avoided the play-in, beat Milwaukee, and they draw Cleveland, and I think that's going to be another good series.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, though, do we give them a chance, though, because they don't really have a lot of playoff experience on this roster, but we got to see how they do first, because Cleveland was in the playoffs last year, of course, lost to the Knicks in the first round.
They did.
And they felt like they just weren't ready for that yet. But I think now after another year of having Donovan Mitchell with the team, and I think a little bit more of just like with the team being a lot closer together, I think maybe they'll get another shot to move on to the second round this year. But the thing is, though, whoever plays that is going to the 1 seed, and that would be against Boston. So that's the only thing here, because Orlando going into this, that from what I've seen, they've played a lot of good basketball this year. So
they have.
I will give them a chance. I just don't know how many games this series is going to go, because the 4 or 5 usually depends on the opponents.
Oh yeah, and now I know Cleveland, again, they were hot before the All-Star break. I think they were the 2 seed at one point when Milwaukee still had Adrian Griffin, and then injuries just kind of beat them up again. Donovan Mitchell's missed quite a bit of time. And I feel like Cleveland should be the favorites to win this series, and I think they are, because, like you said, Orlando's a very young team. And I'm like picking upsets on the Western side of the bracket for a lot of these first-round series, minus Denver and OKC, but I just feel like Cleveland, they're going to win this series. I think they'll win it probably in 6. I think if Mitchell is healthy, because he's had a couple good playoff series with the Jazz, against OKC, against Denver, even though they lost, he played very well. And I just feel like this Cavs team has more experience, and that's why I think they'll win it. Now, it'll be very short-lived when they move on, because you're going up against Boston. But all I got to say is that if Cleveland doesn't win this series, I don't know if people understand the ramifications that might happen if Cleveland does not win this series. I think, at minimum, J.B. Bickerstaff gets fired in Cleveland. And do you start considering the Donovan Mitchell trade talks? Because I think he only has 1 year left on his deal after this season. And meanwhile, Orlando's playing with house money. And I feel like, despite that, I'm still going to go with Cleveland.
Yeah, I think you got to say that too, just because of the playoff experience that Donovan Mitchell can bring to the table. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Darius Garland was in the play-in tournament a year before and lost to the Nets a year before Mitchell got there. But I think with the way this team is built now, I think they're ready, and they have a good shot in this series. They got the home court advantage against Orlando. Of course, Orlando has Ben Caro. They have a lot of these young guys coming in, and I think they're going to give Cleveland a good fight. But the Cavaliers, with the experience that they got, I think they should be sitting pretty in the right spot. But
Oh, yeah.
now looking at the rest of this Eastern Conference, the Bucks and the Pacers. Giannis is not going to play, from what I heard, at least the first 2 games, maybe the third. So with the Pacers now having Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner,
Yeah.
I will give them a shot if they can split one on the road. That's what they got to do, because the Bucks are still gonna have Dame, of course. As long as Dame is Dame time, the Bucks can win both games at home unless they falter and lose one of them. But I think this series, with the implications of Giannis being on the injured side, that changes things with this series.
I don't think the Pacers are going to split in Milwaukee. I think they're going to get both in Milwaukee.
Really?
If Giannis doesn't play, I'm picking the Pacers to go up 2-0 in this series. Why? Because I think in the regular season they went 4-1 against Milwaukee, including the in-season tournament game. And these two teams are polar opposites, and it works in Indiana's favor. Indiana is a young team. They play at one of the fastest paces in all of the league. They're not a big team by any means. Well, at least when they started. They're a bigger team now that they added Siakam and obviously got Miles Turner. But they're a running gun team. They love the 3-ball. They don't play a lot of defense. They just kind of out-offense you. And when those guys are hitting down open shots, it is a nightmare for a team like Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a slow team, operate almost exclusively in the half court, it feels like. And I don't know, it's something about this Pacers team, given the matchup, given that Giannis is out, Doc Rivers is the coach, the fact that this team has not clicked all regular season, Pacers are winning this series. I think the Pacers are winning this series in 6 games. They'll go up 2-0. Giannis will probably try to force his way back. He's not going to be 100% in this series. And I think they'll go up 2-0. They'll split in Indiana, come back and finish the job in Indiana in Game 6. And I think the Pacers are going to do it.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I think there's definitely a shot for something like that to happen. And with the way Tyrese Halliburton's been playing this year, he's up there in like probably top 15 players so far this season, I think.
Oh, yeah, he's making all-NBA team this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw what he did in the in-season tournament early on against the Bucks and eliminating them from that back in Las Vegas. So I think Indiana, they've earned the respect this year. They have a great coach in Rick Carlisle. He's been coaching he's coached championship teams. He's coached teams to the Eastern Conference Finals. So he's got a lot of credit to his name as well. So I think that's going to be a great series, and we'll see what happens with that. Of course, the winner of that series will play either the New York Knicks or whoever comes out of the play-in tournament.
Yep.
So now getting to the Eastern Conference play-in tournament before we touch on the Knicks, we'll talk about the 9-10 game first. So that's going to be the Chicago Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks. The winner of that will play for the 8 seed with the loser to the 7-8, which means they will play the 70s. The winner of that game plays the Sixers or the Miami Heat to play for the 8 seed to go play the Celtics.
Yep.
So DeMar DeRozan versus Trae Young. Both of these teams were in the play-in last year. I don't think they both played each other though, because Atlanta beat Miami and then Chicago played. I forgot who they played last year. Yeah, that's right. Chicago played Miami and they lost.
Yep.
That's what happened last year. So what do you think it's going to take for both of these teams in order to try to find a way to win?
I just kind of feel like whoever wins that 9-10 game is just going to be the whipping boy for Miami or Philadelphia, whoever loses that game, because I just feel like both of these teams are in tumultuous times. The Trae and the Hawks, all the trade rumors, he and DeJounte probably going to be split up at the end of this year. And I liked the Bulls originally, but I honestly kind of like the Hawks now. I like the Hawks to beat the Bulls now. I feel like Trae and DeJounte will play desperate and like a controlled desperation, be enough to get past Chicago, who's had their own tumultuous situation. Levine out the entire year. DeRozan, I think this is the last year of DeRozan's deal, right? I believe so.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. But I don't know if they're going to re-sign him or not with everything that's happened in the past 2 years. But
who knows?
Yeah.
I just feel like both of these teams, whoever loses this game is going to have an earlier offseason demolition than the other. I think both of these teams are primed for a blow-up because all eyes are on this game right here on screen.
Yeah, this game, the 7-8, is probably the more exciting game for this because the winner of this game plays the New York Knicks at MSG next Saturday. And your 76ers, since they've gotten Joel Embiid back, they've been sitting pretty in a good spot, but the Miami Heat, they've been up and down all year. They basically finished in the same spot they finished last year, of course, being the 8 seed. Mm-hmm. So what do you think this game is going to be like? I know that crowd in Philly is going to be going crazy.
Absolutely. Embiid, like I said earlier, Sixers with Embiid, excellent. Top 3 team in the East. I believe if their record up across an 82-game season with Embiid, they probably would have finished as like the 2 seed with mid-50 wins. But I'm nervous because there's one guy in Miami. He used to play for us. We didn't bring him back, and he has made us eat crow ever since that.
Playoff Jimmy.
Playoff Jimmy. He's coming to Philly. That horrifies me. Eric Spoelstra, great coach. Bam Adebayo. Not Embiid, but he's a great defensive stopper. Heat culture, everything. It's like this matchup. If I'm the Sixers, as a Sixers fan, I am nervous because obviously you'd rather play the Knicks than the Celtics. No shame on the Knicks, but the Celtics have just been on another level all year, and the Celtics have owned the Sixers all year. I think they're going to win this game. I think Jimmy and Miami are going to put up a fight. It's going to be a good game all around, but I think the Sixers will come away, win it, and we'll see if Miami can be a Cinderella 8 seed again.
Well, if Miami wins, you got to think about what Jimmy could say. Tobias Harris over me?
Don't remind me. Don't remind me. Jimmy, I was rooting for you to win the title last year, dude. After knowing what the 76ers have become since you've left, you called it that Ben Simmons didn't care, that Brett Brown was not a good coach. You saw all of that before we did, and you've earned my respect, Jimmy. 2 trips to the finals. You've earned my respect. I'm just not rooting for you tomorrow. Let's go Sixers.
Well, now before we close it out, we're going to touch on this real quick with the New York Knicks. So, depending on the opponent in this first-round series, if it's Philly or Miami, which we'll find out tomorrow night, of course.
Yep.
What do you think it's going to be? Because if they get Philly, I don't know what to expect. If they get Miami, it's just going to be revenge from last year.
This is tricky because much like the Knicks, much like the Bucks, I feel like the Knicks are gettable. Now, they're on a much better trajectory than the Bucks are. The Bucks have, slumped hard to get to this point, while the Knicks, I believe they won...
They won 5 straight to close out the year.
Yeah, which was enough to get them a 50-win season, but if I'm the Knicks, you take what you can get, but I think you would much rather play Miami for the revenge factor, the fact that Embiid and the Sixers have, again, surged to get here. I think the Sixers have won their last 8 games to finish at 7. Wasn't enough to get out of the play-in, but they're hot coming into it. I think the Knicks will be the Vegas favorite if they play Miami. For some reason, I think if they play the Sixers, they'll be the underdog. Now, we'll see if Brunson and Tibbs will use that as motivation, but I think if I'm a Knicks fan, I'd rather play the Heat, but regardless of who they do get, I think it's going to be a fun series, whoever they end up getting. MSG will be rocking, Spike Lee will be courtside, and we'll see if the Knicks can prove the regular season wasn't just a blip and that they can go on a deep run.
Well, we remember last year how it was in the first round against Cleveland when they came home for Game 3 and the crowd was going nuts. Mm-hmm. Game 4 was the same way. Games 1 and 2 and Game 5, of course, against the Heat last year, that crowd was going insane. Make sure to get your tickets. Go to the Garden. Fill it up. The Knicks, I want them to win this series. I want an excellent playoff run. I know it's going to happen, and we got this. Jalen Brunson, you got this.
Those tickets are not cheap, by the way. They're not cheap.
Lowest ticket, by the way, was $270-something, I think?
Something like that, yeah.
That's what it was pretty much around, but we'll close this out here. And this episode of Empire State Hoops has been powered by Sport Pros USA. For more information, visit sportprosusa.com or call 877-HOOPS-NJ to make your dream court a reality today. So, the playoffs are here.
Yep.
The play-in is today. Tomorrow, Thursday, playoffs start Saturday. Get your tickets, go to the Garden, go have fun, watch some basketball. The NBA playoffs are here. And from here on Empire State Hoops, from our playoff preview here in Season 2, Episode 10, I'm Adam Rothschild, and that's Matt Vargo. And hope you enjoyed the NBA playoffs. We'll see you next week for our next episode in the middle of the postseason. Have a good one, everyone.
Peace.